there it is. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 25 of Tell the Truth podcast here on Kingdom Cast, man. Got yours truly, D-Mac, CJ, DG. Look, we're rolling along here into April, dog. You know, it's getting closer to the draft. We're weeks away.
Draft.
Yes, it is draft season. We are going to have a special preview for you guys, specifically getting into the weapons, obviously, why the podcast is named this today. We're going to talk about the tight ends, the running backs, and the wide receivers, those coveted wide receivers that everybody wants in the 2024 NFL draft. Not just top guys, but also get a little bit into day 2 and day 3 guys that we think would be good targets as well. Obviously, the Chiefs have a variety of picks throughout the entirety of the draft. And for some of these positions, it makes more sense for them to be drafting them late rather than early. So we're certainly getting into that for sure, man. But CJ, DG, how you guys doing, man?
Doing good, man. Excited for the draft. Excited that April is finally here. And, it's my birthday month, so be 33 this year. So I'm blessed, man. I'm excited, and ready to roll, man.
All right, Larry Bird year for DG, man. You know, it's coming out of my birth month, so I'm riding it down, dog. I did my March Madness thing, played my future, and I'm good.
Yeah,
I didn't play too much future, otherwise I piss off Drake. But I played just to run.
Drake.
We have a light skin brigade that we have to look out for our light skin brothers. So we have to make sure
brigade is crazy.
We can't run.
The light skin coalition sticks together.
Absolutely, man. Look, if we don't stick up for ourselves, nobody else is going to stick up for us. So we have to make sure. Right? It's just that's just the reality of the situation. Okay. Drake. Oh man. But yeah. So obviously, extremely excited. Like we said, getting close to the draft. We did have some Chiefs news that was not related to politics. Thank God. That was about specifically the Chiefs signing one Mr. Carson Wentz, former top NFL overall draft pick of the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, got injured in their Super Bowl run. Tried to come back in 2018, I believe it was. Didn't necessarily work out. Went to the Colts. Didn't necessarily work out. Went to the Commanders. Didn't necessarily work out. Did have a cup of coffee with the Rams last year, which is specifically the film that I looked at because I was interested to see what Sean McVay did with him. And I saw some interesting things. So he's athletic, got good arm talent. Obviously, he's had experience around the league at this current moment in time. So it'd be interesting to see what Andy Reid has in store for him as the backup quarterback. DG and CJ, what were you guys' initial reactions to Carson Wentz signing here in Kansas City to be the backup quarterback to Patrick Mahomes?
Man, I was kind of like, I wasn't shocked or anything. Just, all right, cool. Like finally got to figure out who the backup is. Not gonna be my boy Blaine Vick, But it is what it is. We'll move on from it.
Blaine Vick is crazy.
I'm excited to have Carson Wentz here, man. I think that he's a guy that at one point could have arguably been one of the better quarterbacks in the league, but unfortunately, injuries can derail somebody's career in this league. So now I think he's kind of finally accepting his role that he's just going to be a backup for the majority of his career now, and it's nice to have him here. Worst case scenario, something goes wrong. We know how this game moves. You got to have somebody that can step into your system and be serviceable, and I think that he can come in and do that or whatever. So I think there's still something left in the tank for Carson Wentz.
No, absolutely. He's obviously a guy who's been in big moments. He's been in a lot of systems. Obviously, he played in Philly. Had some good success there. Should have won a Super Bowl. Obviously, didn't get to finish the run, like D-Mac said. So he's been around the block. Obviously, he's been in Indy, DC, and with the LA with McVay, and now he ends up back here. And I don't think there's a better situation could ask for him. He was on our projected list for backup quarterbacks. My top pick was obviously Joe Flacco, but he wants to be a loser, quote unquote, the rest of his career. So, I mean,
where did he go? Because you said this like multiple times. It's correct,
bro. This is not fair, bro. He went to the freaking Colts, dog. It doesn't even make sense. You're backing up Anthony Richardson, like, all right, go ahead, whatever. And then he was. Don't get me started on Mr. Flacco. But no, I mean, I like Wentz. Obviously, he's been been a winner. Obviously, he's been in big games. He's made big throws in his career. There was always, like DG said, that comparison when he first came in the league. Who's one of the better quarterbacks in the league between him and Dak? And obviously, he had the upper hand at that point. But then the knee injury kind of took him out, and never been the same since. But it's good to have athletic guys our backup, because usually the most athletic guy we had since him was probably Matt Moore, or if we're gonna go playoff Chad Henne. Playoff Chad Henne can move. Now, regular season,
here's
playoff of Chad. I don't know, but that's just me.
The beautiful thing about the difference between Chad Henne and Moore is that one of them is not very athletic, but he also just threw caution to the wind in the moment in which we needed him to. So it worked out all the same. You know, Chad Henne is not athletic, but he was like, I'm getting that first down no matter what.
Playoff Chad Henne is a different dog. I ain't gonna lie. He got them first downs twice. So no, but no, I love the signing. It's definitely a mold. You can tell we're doing a shift. Because in the Mahomes era, we've always had an older veteran quarterback in the QB room. So now they're kind of it's almost like a subtle passing of the torch. Like, all right, Pat, you don't necessarily need a veteran in the room. You are the veteran. You are the leader in that room, and kind of set the tone and set the standard in that QB room. So whenever anyone has questions or answers when they're going through film, going through practice and game planning, they're looking to Pat instead of looking towards the older guy and also Pat at the same time. So I love the move. Carson Wentz is obviously the guy who can play in multiple systems, been in a lot of different offenses, been around a lot of different coordinators. So it'll be good to have him in the system, in the building. I think he'll pick up the offense flawlessly. I don't think it'll be a big transition for him. And hopefully we don't have to see him play. But you never know when in this league, like DG said. But I think it's a good signing for us. A guy that's been humbled by this league. He knows how it is to be at the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. So I don't think there's a better guy you could ask for to be in that position and obviously go in there and be a part of a good QB room that we built here in Kansas City. So, yeah, I like it for sure.
Absolutely. And look, the reality situation is, like I said, kid's athletic. He's got a good arm talent. He had the experience in different systems as well. I expect that there will be some interesting wrinkles that maybe Andy Reid has in store specifically for him. Could be on third and fourth downs that he wants to run certain things for. It's very possible, and that'll always come with a certain like, oh, are you sure you want to take the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands on those specific downs? But there's a balance in that, and I'm sure they'll be able to find it. But the reality situation is being the backup quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs means that in a pinch, can you play 2 to 3 games during a regular season and get us through that? In a pinch, can you play a drive or two in a playoff game and get us through that? And I think the reality situation is that he can do that just fine. And so I'm going to be interested to see what he looks like during preseason. To be honest with you, I think it'd be a very low bar to clear for him to look better than Blaine Gabbert did, and we obviously got by with Blaine Gabbert. So that's my thoughts on Carson Wentz, which is, it's just funny, things come full circle. Obviously, Carson Wentz in 2017 was a MVP candidate, looked like he was going to be taking the league by storm. And in 2017, Patrick Mahomes was a completely unproven rookie that was, sitting behind Alex Smith. And a few short years later, how much things could change just that easily for sure. Which, yes, I agree with that, Kyle. Mahomes does not necessarily need that veteran in the room anymore. He's completely studied up. He's got his PhD and his master's in Andy Reid's offense. He's been able to do his in-depth research through trial and error on NFL defenses and had them tried everything to throw at him to slow him down. So he doesn't necessarily need that veteran in the room right now. More so, it's about kind of guys that can provide you a little bit of upside on a cheap deal and give you more options for certain things in a lot of different circumstances. So I'm happy with Carson Wentz. Obviously, I would have preferred other guys, but the combination of knowing that you have no chance to start here, that it's going to be low money, et cetera, that limits your pool. And that's where you take off guys like Jacoby Brissett, who end up going to the Patriots, but he has a chance to start. And so that kind of changes things. So that's the reality situation. I'm fine with Carson Wentz being the backup quarterback this year. Hopefully, of course, we don't need to see him play outside of maybe, a week 18 starters are resting type of scenario. So we'll hope for that as well.
Preseason wins,
Can't
baby.
wait to see him preseason ball, baby.
They got the redhead.
Right.
Redhead wins, baby.
Yeah. And look, Kyle, I think that if you start signing guys to multiple year deals, then you can see that type of pipeline begin. But, there's obviously only a 1-year deal. If it turns into a multiple year deal, that's fine by me. But that's the reality situation. The other person that was signed to Kansas City is a returning face, Mr. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, signed back into the running back. Yes. Y'all thought that he was finished. He's not done. No, he was like, I'm coming back. Clyde is back on a 1-year deal as well. Obviously, the backup Isaiah Pacheco we saw last year. He actually did shine in certain moments, receiving the football out of the backfield. He had other moments running the ball in which he was serviceable as well. He's a guy that's been really a rotational level back since his rookie year after that first injury, unfortunately, that he suffered against the Saints. That was really nasty, to be honest with you. It was gruesome. And I don't think he's been the same back since then. Unfortunately, I think there was a step of explosiveness, I'll say, that he probably lost. But it seems like he may have found something a little bit better to be a rotational running back last year in the way that his body was composed, his ability on third down specifically to be a good pass protector, which has been important. Obviously, you needed a lot. He's a significantly better pass protector, significantly better in pass protection than Isaiah Pacheco was. And that's a good thing. You're going to need that dude back in there to help. And yeah, I mean, like Kyle said, he has a role in the team. You guys' reaction to him coming back. My other question would be, obviously, J.K. Dobbins was in on a visit at the time in which CEH was signed, which is not a coincidence. My question is, I mean, do you guys feel like we should be talking about running back on day 3, which we will later on in this podcast? Or do you think you still need to sign another veteran running back? How do you guys feel about that? And then obviously CEH coming back in general.
Go ahead, Steve.
I think the veteran CEH kind of filled that role. I know Chase Daniel kind of said something funny when he tweeted out the other day that they brought in JK to use leverage. I'm like, I don't know how much leverage you need to get over CEH to bring him back. I feel like that's a pretty straightforward conversation. Hey, do you want to come back or not? I mean, like, if you say no, it's cool. We'll move on. But if you want to, we'll gladly have you back for a 1-year deal with a veteran minimum. So, no, it was funny to hear him say that. But, I mean, the league does move like that. They try to leverage players via contracts and get guys to sign. So, it makes sense. But, no, I love Clyde back, RB2. He knows the system, been here his whole career. Obviously, Andy has a relationship with him. Pat has a relationship with him. And obviously, we've been through a lot of ups and downs with Clyde, so nobody knows him better than us. So from his perspective and our perspective, it makes sense for both sides to come in, clearly be the RB2. Him and obviously Pacheco are great with the running back room together. They both know the system. They work well off each other. Clyde made some plays last year. 2 of them being the biggest one to me was one of the blitz pickups he had in Buffalo and the catch he made in New England. So he had a lot of big plays for us last year down the stretch when Pacheco missed games. And I think that'll probably be one of his bigger impacts that he had on the season, helping us go win a Super Bowl. So, and obviously it was big for him to be able to be active in the Super Bowl compared to last year when he wasn't able to play at all. And we all heard the story about how that went down. So now I think there's no better guy to bring back in, obviously, for him because he knows the system. It's a veteran cheap deal. It makes sense for both sides. And I'm glad Clyde gets to finish out his career the right way. So hopefully we get to see him keep playing games in Kansas City. So no, I like the move. It makes sense. I would have J.K. Dobbins would have been great, but I was always weary because of the knee injury. Y'all know how I felt about him. But a guy who's healthy generally has been available for us in Clyde. I think this makes sense for both sides. So
yeah, to me I think the signing kind of tells some interesting things. I think the Chiefs kind of value health at this point in free agency. I think JK is still a great talent, but at the same time, we've all known the history of injuries that he's had in his career or whatever, and I don't think he's been able to finish a full season except for one or whatever. So it's been a really short career for him as well. So I think at this point, it kind of sounds like maybe JK came in and they probably gave him some sort of a physical, and they didn't like what they really saw or felt comfortable with it, you know.
Rick probably didn't clear him.
Yeah, like I don't know, man, and that is all just speculation at this point.
Yeah.
I don't really know what goes on inside those behind closed doors or anything like that. But yeah, I love having Clyde back, man. To me, it from an emotional fan point of it, like you love having your guys, you know, that you become accustomed to back. He knows the system. Yeah, and I can't wait to see him go and ball out. The only thing I could think of was that last image in the Super Bowl of him and Isaiah hugging each other. And I think at that moment they kind of knew like this might be the last time we share the field together, you know, or whatever. So, but you know, wasn't the last time. God had other plans. So, you know, Clyde is back in the city where he belongs and still a Chief. Man. Happy for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's fine. CH is back and he could be in that rotation. And I think that obviously coming off of last year's Super Bowl, a lot of people were cool to move on from him. And I was fine with it. I wasn't advocating for it, but I was fine with it. But I also fine with keeping him because there was a certain role that he could, possibly play on the team, and he did it when we asked him to. I would like to still bring in a veteran running back with J.K. Dobbins. That'd be cool to me. I think there's room enough to bring in another guy and still draft a guy late too, if you need to. But to Chuck's point, and obviously DG, you brought up the video afterwards. I completely agree with you guys. I mean, he cares deeply about winning, and specifically for this team. It obviously meant a lot for him to be active on the Super Bowl. And even if he didn't have an impact, when you care, I can respect that. And he certainly does. So it's nice to have him back, a guy in the locker room that clearly was important because Pacheco was sharing that moment with him as well. So perfectly fine bringing him back. No issues there. If they bring in JK as well, also cool with it. If they decide to move on from it, we'll see what ends up happening from that perspective as well. So we got CH back, able to sign Carson Wentz as well. That is pretty much all that we have as far as Chiefs Kingdom news is concerned. Obviously, the rugby player signed. Talked about that a little bit in our live reaction to the show when it actually happened as well. The L'Jarius Sneed trade was made official since the last time we talked. Nothing really big deal other than we're getting that cap space at work. Yes, official. So otherwise, the other big NFL news story that has come down was Mr. Stefon Diggs, traded from the Buffalo Bills.
Oh boy.
I'm going. There are so many things I could say. I'm going to allow CJ and DG to get their first tracks at giving their thoughts on the Stefon Diggs trade. And their overall feelings as far as the AFC is concerned, as two AFC teams, I'll say, made a trade today. CJ, if you want to give his thoughts.
We all have friends who are not necessarily ops, and I know DG loved the troll, and D-Mac a little bit too, as you can see by the pictures. We all have friends who are Bills fans. I suggest that you check in on them on a personal level. Forget the fan base because they're going to need it today. They've lost a lot of great players over the last, 30 days since free agency, and they've been cutting guys down defending the cap. So it's going to be some dark times in Buffalo, man. I mean, they were already a good football team, obviously, because, they have Josh Allen, a top 5 quarterback. Regardless of how you feel, he's still a good talent. And obviously, he had one of the better receivers in the league, being Diggs. So now that he's gone, we know what life was like before the Bills had Stefon Diggs and what life is like after him now. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm trying to reserve some of my reactions because I think most of us have said a lot of things on the timeline today. It was very funny, but to see Buffalo go all in the last 4 years and even back since COVID when we first played them in the AFC Championship game to now, it's just been so many ups and downs, so many crazy games from the Tyreek Hill drop pass in the regular season that led to a pick six to obviously the 13 seconds and obviously Josh Allen throwing the ball at Alex Okafor in the AFC Championship game and us going into their house and beating them this year. It's just there's no better story than you could write all the roller coasters we've had going against this team in the playoffs. And for now, it's all not necessarily come to an end, but that kind of chapter of the Bills kind of be closed because I think this is a new chapter now. They're in like whatever you want to call it, a soft rebuild, maybe a retool, whatever you want to say. I've heard all the words on Twitter today, but it is hilarious to see them do all of this and go all in and try to beat the Chiefs. And look who you are. You couldn't live with your own failures. Now look at yourself. So led you right back to me. So it's very funny today. Today's a funny day. Today's a funny day.
Let me just pull out my little small violin.
All right, we got the keyboard, please.
Only thing I could think of today was that Stephen A. video. Today. I am in no mood. Nah, man. Look,
let's go Buffalo, boy.
Buffalo,
oh boy.
Y'all are down bad.
Got a new stadium though.
I hope y'all enjoy it.
That you still gonna have to shovel out before you get to your seat.
Oh, no dome. Yeah,
they want to put a dome up.
No dome on stadium.
Nah.
For God,
you talk about the definition of cooked. Like
boy, oh boy.
And it was funny because I was seeing I think the weeks leading up to this, I was seeing Stefon Diggs cryptic tweeting and saying so, and they I'm muting him. He's not leaving. He ain't going nowhere. You think?
That boy.
I think he wanted out last year, man. I think he tried to come back this year and try to make it work one more time. And unfortunately, man, Tyler Bass shanked the punt I mean, shank the kick.
Wide right.
Like
Wide
that.
right.
I'm sorry,
Yet
bro.
again.
I may be on some trolling stuff right now, but like, there's no way I could be a fan of that organization. Like
Bro, that's
the
crazy,
amount
bro.
of bad luck that they have had to go to 4 Super Bowls and lose all of them
In a row.
to have this
Jesus
much
Lord.
playoff disaster, and then this year, like you're buried underneath the cap or whatever, and now you have to trade one of your better weapons that you had in a long time. So, yeah, man, I have no no grace for Buffalo, anything like that.
DG wants to say R.I.P. and it doesn't stand
R.I.P.
for rest.
Yes,
It doesn't
I'm
stand for rest in peace.
rest in peace
It
to
don't say peace.
Buffalo. They can go to hell. For all I care.
Hey,
Hey,
DG funny, bro.
look, I'm just calling it how it
He
is.
said,
Like,
they can go to
sorry,
hell. Why
like
are you saying
I don't feel bad for them at all.
And I promise you, for as much as DG does not feel bad for him, I somehow feel even less bad for them because I don't care.
Boy, oh boy.
Look, the reality situation is the Buffalo Bills got what was a very good quarterback in Josh Allen.
Rest in peace.
Had him his first 2 years in which he was bad, traded for Stefon Diggs, and he was able to be a very good quarterback while he had Stefon Diggs there. And then, obviously they got their, door slammed shut multiple times by Patrick Mahomes, getting boat raced in the AFC Championship game, getting close in the 13 seconds game and still losing because that's what Buffalo does.
Hey, drop the ether beat. Drop the ether beat.
Went home, and then in the snow, which they thought was going to be an advantage, got beat by Joe Burrow. And
Good
then
luck.
went home again and said that they finally had us at their house and things were going to be different
Good
in
luck,
Buffalo.
is
It
what he
was
said.
not different. You still lost. You still went right. You're still a loser franchise. That's the reality situation. That's why you ain't got no Lombardis. So
Good luck.
that's the reality of being a Bills fan. And I love it. I personally enjoy it greatly, to be honest with you. It's fun with the Bengals fans. They at least can talk a little bit. They beat us one time. I like going back and forth with them because they have a little bit more moxie. We've beat the Bills into the ground so much that it's not as fun. But given everything, I still like to have a lot of fun, just making fun because they don't even try and respond anymore. They just kind of accept it. They understand that they're losers. They're going to always be losers, and that's not going to help them. But anyway, Stefon Diggs being traded helps out the Houston Texans a lot, which is you got to say. Give credit to what the Texans have done. And I talk about this all the time, and this is outside the trolling aspect of it. Every single one of these teams that has been trying to chase down Patrick Mahomes is not only behind one, curve, but they're behind a second curve. Patrick Mahomes already did the rookie contract. Let's go all in, retool the defense in 2019, go for that Super Bowl, try and run it back in 2020. Didn't necessarily work, et cetera, et cetera. And then he went through the whole, okay, we already paid our quarterback and we got to rebuild the entire team around him. We got to draft really well. We got to find on the margins where you can win with marginal contracts like Drew Tranquil and Mike Edwards, things of that nature. And he still won back-to-back Super Bowls. And that's how you build a dynasty. Everybody else in the AFC is chasing that because they already wasted the rookie, contract windows of the Justin Herberts of the world, the Josh Allens of the world, the Joe Burrows of the world. And now they're trying to go through that cycle again. The Texans, funny enough, obviously started this with Deshaun Watson. And obviously they've gone through the cycle all the way back to where they're back with a rookie quarterback that they're going all in for. And the cycle comes for everybody. Everybody's got to pay the piper. With the Bills, it's obviously Stefon Diggs and obviously the Von Miller trade and subsequent signing end up blowing up in their face. But that's the reality situation when you go all in, that bill is going to come due. Obviously, the Bengals are facing a little bit now. They already lost DJ Reader in free agency. They obviously lost Jesse Bates in free agency. Now they are having T. Higgins on the tag. Yeah, they had to trade Joe Mixon to the Texans as well. The Chargers, we saw what the teardown looked like for them. They had to restructure Mack and Bosa. They got rid of both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams this offseason. And Eckler as well. They just had to go through that. And that's the reality situation. You could pay these guys and go all in while you have a rookie quarterback contract, but at a certain point, that bill is going to come due. Ravens are a little bit of a unique situation because they didn't pay Lamar Jackson initially, so they extended that window a little bit. They went, quote unquote, a little bit all in, I should say, this last year. And we know how that ended up going for them as well. So That's the reality situation. The Jaguars are kind of in a situation where they thought this was going to be their window, and all of a sudden they're looking at, okay, well, the Colts and Texans are doing really well. What are we supposed to do? And they have Gabe Davis as the wide receiver one, so that's going to be fun for them. No, that was mean to Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk is the wide receiver one. But
He said Gabe Davis wide receiver one.
That was me. I shouldn't have done that to Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk deserves me.
That was definitely.
But yeah, look, that's the reality. You have to go through these quarterback cycles, and like I said, everybody in the AFC is chasing what Mahomes has already done. Not just getting through the first cycle with the Super Bowl, but getting through the next cycle with 2 already in the hand. And obviously, we know what they're going to continue to do from that perspective. But yeah, I don't care. Enjoy it, Bills. You can lose for the next 2 years and then try again.
Then you know what that word that they said,
and lose again. So I enjoy. Also, people are saying the Bills should go and trade up. I hope they do, and I said the same thing. I hope they go and trade up the farm to try and get a wide receiver. That's not going to fix their issues. They have a lot of their roster is incredibly flawed. They tore this down, so I don't expect that they're going to trade up, but I hope they do because it's less assets for them to build this roster effectively. And this is why I continue to harp on. I get Brett Veach is not perfect. He has made his mistakes, no doubt about it.
I call GMs.
But for this team to have gone through that first cycle, rebuilt his defense, rebuilt the offensive line, been able to go through the draft, get so many incredibly key, contributors on day 3 alone. It's the only way that you can have a dynasty. You have to be able to win on the margins when it comes to team acquisition and talent acquisition. And that's what Brett Veach has been able to do in a multitude of different avenues to get cheap talent on this team. And that's the only way that you can sustain success when you have an expensive quarterback. And that's where all these other front offices are failing to a certain extent, and where obviously the Chiefs are exceeding in a lot of different respects. So yeah, that's the spiel on the AFC as far as that's concerned. Anything else you guys want to add?
Nah, man, shout out to the Texans. I think it's a great move for them. That wide receiver core is Nico Collins, Stefon Diggs,
Dalton Schultz, and Joe Mason. They're gonna be fun to watch, and they still got Damian Pierce still on the roster. So yeah, that's gonna be a fun
work cut out for it.
That's gonna be a fun game. So no. Yeah. But no, we can never ever to talk about Brett Veach ever again. Like, I know we critique him for some mistakes he's made, like D-Mac said. When you look at all the teams across the league and the contract they paid and the results it's had them, yeah, you can't. It's a different grading curve when you talk about Veach for sure. It's not even in the same class, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And like you guys said, I mean, that wide receiver trio is going to be nice. I said it, a few weeks ago. I expected the Texans would make a lot of sense as the opening that game, but since then it's really only become stronger for me. Non-divisional game, still obviously AFC playoff team. A lot of intrigue with CJ Stroud coming off of it. So I would not be surprised if it ends up being Houston week 1. It'll be fascinating to watch what this secondary does without L'Jarius Sneed. And what it may look like week 1 versus that good of a wide receiver core if that ends up being the matchup as well. But look, we'll see what ends up happening. Obviously, the Texans are next up on the cycle, man. Let's see if they can try and knock us off. We'll give them the best of luck. Like everybody else.
Burrow, Lamar Jackson, these next. Okay.
Yeah, Freak Man was first up though. We got to give him first, dude. They tried to do the Ryan Tannehill thing.
Freak Man is crazy.
Which really turned into the King Henry thing. Well, the first up you could say was Andrew Luck, because we sent Andrew Luck to retirement. So that might have been the first one.
End of his career. We'll give it to
him. But it was prime Andrew Luck. It was
it was a playoff game. We played it out.
Man, that boy saw 15 and did the digital dash, dog. Like,
he said, "I'm retired. I ain't playing no more."
He said, "I gotta play that."
I'm sorry. I saw this man throw the ball and look the other way. I'm good. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah. Have you seen this O-line I have?
We're gonna exit stage left.
Y'all still can't protect me? Nah, I'm straight. Nah, I'm cool.
Andrew sitting there now today telling, I told you.
I told you. You see what happened? See, that's why I stepped out.
Y'all thought I lost him and it was a joke. Ah, man, he was him.
He said, I saw the vision. Y'all did.
But yeah, so that was an interesting little bit of news, obviously, that ended up dropping. And look, I think it's going to end up changing a lot about the AFC landscape from Texas perspective, and also in the AFC East, which, the Jets are, I thought, are in a position where they probably should be considered favorites, given what Miami lost, obviously Christian Wilkins on the interior offensive line. Obviously, they had to cut Xavier Howard. Obviously, we've seen the teardown the Bills have had. Patriots are languishing. So it'll be an interesting division, in my opinion, to see if somebody can wrestle that away from the Bills, obviously, who won it, I think, for the fourth straight year. Fourth straight year last year as well. And it seems like that streak could be in jeopardy now. So with that being said, let's talk about some talent that the Chiefs can bring in. Specifically, we're going to start with the wide receivers. And so I kind of broke it up for position by position. Wide receiver, tight end, and running back, kind of increasing variance of where they can be picked, in my opinion, as far as the Chiefs are concerned. I think wide receiver is obviously incredibly valuable in round one for the Chiefs, and pretty much throughout the entirety of the draft from that perspective, and we'll cover all of it. Tight end, a little bit more of the third round-ish and on, really more fourth round, but third round-ish and on for targets as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well in the top of the tight end class as well. And then running backs, obviously late day 3 type of thing. We'll discuss some of our favorite draft targets from that perspective as well. So first question up, and this is kind of a standard one because based on, some of the common draft boards, what things we're hearing around the league as well, and you see this in the mock drafts, is kind of the group of 5 wide receivers that we currently are seeing in that 32-ish range. Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey, and Troy Franklin. Those are the 5 wide receivers that we have, kind of listed. And I wanted to ask us pretty much just to rank them in order of how excited we would be if they took them at 32 or in the first round in general, we'll say. If that may take a slight trade up from you guys' perspective. And it doesn't have to be a little bit on every single one, but anything that you guys want to highlight as far as the order is concerned. Do anyone want to lead off, or you want me to go first?
DG,
you got
DG. We got 2 of you guys in here, man.
Got to start with the dog, DG.
Yeah, man. Shout out to my guys. Nah, man. I have it ranked as Worthy, Mitchell, McConkey, Coleman, and then ... Troy Franklin. So,
he said the words, y'all. He said the words. He said it.
If those are the 5, Worthy and Mitchell are obviously at the top. Worthy for me is kind of more personal reasons or whatever. I love Xavier's attitude and how he approaches the game. He's obviously was my favorite player at Texas or whatever. But I kind of tend to think at this point of where we're at in our franchise, AD is more of a fit for what we probably need in that X type of receiver or whatever. A guy who can win over the middle, a little bit bigger of a guy, jump ball guy can also be that as well. And McConkey to me is probably one of the most fluid route runners in this draft at this point in time. So I feel like he could be a guy that could really step in and learn this offense from day one and probably contribute from day one coming in. And then Coleman, of course, being a physical specimen as well too, being a kind of a guy that can be more physical down the field. Wouldn't mind having him at all. I haven't delved deep into his tape, so I have to look a little bit more at him and see what I like. But would be happy to have him as a Chief as well. And then Troy Franklin. Yeah. I don't know how happy I would be. At 32, I'd probably be disgusted. It'd probably take me a couple days to get over a little bit, but Brett Veach and them, they know more than I know. I'm just a fan at this point, so if that's the guy that they feel comfortable with and they feel like they can bring him into the system and have some success with him, then I'm all for it. So that'd be how I would rank those 5 guys at this point.
CJ, what about you?
I'm gonna go just from the Chiefs' perspective, or from the Chiefs' perspective, I'd probably go Xavier Worthy 1. I think they value speed more so than size. If it's me picking, I'd probably pick A.D. Mitchell 1, but I'm gonna go from the Chiefs' perspective. So I'm gonna go, X1, 82, Ladd McConkey 3. As much as I love Keon Coleman, from what this team value as far as running routes from the outside and inside position, obviously being guys that can get open and get to certain spots rather than guys that can get up and separate and obviously make plays over their head and obviously have a big catch radius. As much as I value that, I think the Chiefs have kind of pretty much shown that they don't value size and obviously big catch rate as much as we do. As much as we would love to see it on the field, that's not necessarily their most type of thing. So yeah, I'm gonna go X, AD, Lad. Then I'm gonna go Keon, and at 5, the name that we're not allowed to say, DG's guy. I'm not gonna say his name ever again. We don't like him. If we drafted him, I'd be very upset. Y'all think y'all hated MVS? Jesus Christ. This would be a bad day on the internet if he was a Chief. So I don't even want him here just for his mental. I would hate for him. I don't want him.
God, I hope somebody else picks him.
I don't want that for him. I don't want him to have to go through that ridicule. I don't want. He's a young black man. He's very, he's trying to make a career and a name for himself.
Stand-up guy.
Yeah, stand-up guy. He's a great man. He'll be a good pro, but not here. So let him go somewhere else. Anybody else, please take him. Don't do that. That kid, he don't deserve that. So yeah, that'd be by 5. That'd be the way I would rank him. So, yeah, X, AD, Lad, Keon, and another guy.
The other guy.
The other guy.
Oh man, I feel like we gotta give Troy Franklin a little bit of grace, I suppose.
I hope so.
I feel bad. This one. So I'll shake up the rankings a little bit. Troy Franklin's still 5th for the record. But no, I have Xavier Worthy at number 1. I do think that it's outlier speed that you're talking about, and specifically when you have a outlier trait, one that you still are consistently moving the needle on the more finer points of being a wide receiver. To me, I think Xavier Worthy brings to the table. He has the ball tracking as well as the ability to separate late. That makes me extremely excited if you could bring him into the offense, even if you have Hollywood Brown, because I think there's enough different things that those guys can do to where there's not too much of an overlap. It's not like having 2 MVSs by any means, or 2 Meekols for that matter. So, and he's like he's a much more technical route runner than Meekole ever was. Like, he understands how to play the position. He tracks the ball even better. So I understand why people want to run to that comparison, but it's not a realistic one in my personal opinion. Second one for me, I will say this is a little bit of a change because I had Keon Coleman as the second one, pretty consistently. It is AD Mitchell. I went and looked back at his tape, and I had to ask myself, how much can I ding this kid for some of the route stuff? I've got to trust that if he ends up getting taken, that they feel confident in what his effort level is going to be moving forward. And then if you take that out, he still doesn't necessarily play like his testing time would suggest, but he does have the ability to be smooth in and out of cuts. He consistently catches the ball very well. He does have good athleticism on tape. Like, he is able to separate from a lot of guys. He can't separate deep. Understands how to track the ball as well. Good all-around wide receiver, a guy that I would not be upset with at 32. Keon Coleman, I really love what Keon Coleman brings to the table. He's just my prototypical outside wide receiver. He'll line you up against press. He can use his strength. He uses quickness. He has his length. Incredible balls tracking. That's the reason why he's so good at the catch point. Obviously not great separation late, but when you have the ability to go and get the ball like he can, then that makes it a little bit less important from that perspective. So I really like Keon Coleman. I think he has a lot of upside, especially on the short to intermediate aspects as well. Fourth guy, Ladd McConkey. That was crazy. Fourth guy, Ladd McConkey, obviously has the ability to separate on a consistent basis on the short and intermediate aspect of it. Reason why it's fourth to me is a little bit of the fit. It's just the way that Rashee Rice kind of plays right now. I don't necessarily want to pigeonhole Rashee Rice into moving outside. I would more like to have the option to develop him outside if I want to. And if you bring in Ladd McConkey, that's what it is. Still very good wide receiver. Still a guy I would prefer in the second round, to be honest with you, in the first round. But, I probably wouldn't throw a ride over it. And look, Troy Franklin's a guy who's a second round wide receiver, in my personal opinion. Obviously, we know about all the downsides of it. Kid's still very athletic. You have to give him credit for that. But the actual tape, the playing of the game does not look great from that perspective, you have to say. And then I mean that from a real wide receiver aspect. There are things which Oregon did to get him open, things that they did to get him the ball in space, which is great. That's what Oregon does on a consistent basis. And he was able to use that athleticism, but I would pump the brakes on really loving him in the first round. Mo asked, his ADCD. I could kind of see a little bit of it, but it's not really. I've never really understood that comparison personally because CD coming out. Who made that? He was a demon as far as separation.
Yeah, route running after running for the catch. CD was special at Oklahoma. Yeah, AD's nice, but he ain't CD. Respect.
No,
He's crazy in
it's
Oklahoma.
like I don't know about that.
CD was different, bro.
He was. He absolutely was. Eric Chiefs podcast. Shout out to Eric Chiefs podcast. Asked about Xavier Legette. We are going to get in that in our second question. I asked, what was your favorite day two or your favorite day two wide receiver target? Specifically, obviously, outside of the big three and Brian Thomas Jr. and the five that we just named. As far as day two targets are concerned, who would you guys be excited? Should that first round pick go elsewhere, or maybe in the third round they decide to double dip? So DG or CJ, you guys want to lead us off in that?
Yeah, crazy part is I actually had Xavier Legette.
Bang, bang.
I figured one of us might have Xavier
Somebody
Legette,
gonna
so there you go.
There we go. Get it out the way.
Yeah, for me, the two guys would be Xavier Legette and probably Jalen McMillan. I think if I had to pick, I think at this point probably would take Xavier Legette. I love the measurables that he comes with or whatever. I think the athleticism and speed is obviously there. There might be some technical things that I think the Chiefs probably have to coach him up on, but I do think that he does have some physical things that he can really do once he gets the ball in his hands. Like I think he's an absolute playmaker once he touches the ball. Yeah, so wouldn't mind bringing him in. Obviously, like I said, they probably have to coach him up on some things. So I'm good with that. If it takes a little bit of development, McMillan is a guy I think that it's kind of like McConkey. I think a guy could really step in and do some versatile things for the Chiefs, play inside and out, but probably doesn't provide the type of athleticism or speed that Legette provides for you or whatever. But wouldn't mind having him in the system, though he's a good route runner. Obviously, good hands. He really just does. He's one of those guys you can tell he kind of just does everything, all the little things right or whatever. So wouldn't mind having him. Maybe not as talented as some of these other guys that's ahead of him, but would definitely love to have him in this system.
Absolutely. My favorite guy, day two. Interesting. You already said X. You said McMillan. I'm gonna go with our guy Jermaine Burton out of Alabama. I think he fits our system mainly because he can run. I think Andy and Veach have kind of let it know they value speed. He has good size. I think he's about 6 foot even, so a decent size. Tracked the ball pretty well at Alabama. Never had trouble beating press and getting downfield. Obviously, he could do some little nuanced things as far as like after the catch and things of that matter. But as far as like attacking the football, he did that very well and definitely used him on a lot of his routes down the field, which is something that this offense vastly needed last year. Being explosive and this offense needs speed. So I think a kid that can come in who has decent size, good speed, a guy that can run decent routes overall, and a guy that can play Z or the X if need be. He played slot, he played outside anywhere that Alabama asked him to play. And obviously their passing game wasn't too obviously outrageous, so there really wasn't too much on tape from his point that really kind of translated as far as here to our offense. But him as a player specifically, I think his traits would transfer over outside of his film probably because they were in a run heavy offense with Jalen Milroe, so I'm not going to take too much away from what they did down there in Tuscaloosa. But I like Jermaine Burton as a prospect. I like how he runs. I like how he gets open. He runs good routes. Obviously, he could use some technical work as well. But for a day two guy, size and speed, I think he checks both boxes for what the Chiefs like for sure.
I am shocked. I swore that you were going to go Tez Walker.
Tez is my guy. I like Tez.
That's what I'm saying. Tez is your guy.
I love Mason Tez. I love Mason Tez. And I would not be opposed to it. That's my guy.
I was just surprised by that.
Yeah. Shout out Tez Walker. Shout out North Carolina. That's my guy.
Shout out to Tez Walker for that. Obviously, you mentioned Xavier Legette. He's a guy that, in my personal opinion, sneaky, that could sneak into the first round because somebody could just fall in love with all the athleticism and say, that's a guy I'll teach how to play wide receiver, which is completely understandable because he's an athletic freak. We've seen kind of his mold as far as A.J. Brown is concerned, a guy with a little bit more yak in that physical stature as well. A little bit of DK Metcalf as well, I'll say. But that kid's got a lot of talent. It's just if you can coach him up correctly. And, if I guess they believe in Connor Embry, then maybe he could be a target.
Boy, oh boy.
My personal day two guy, and I bounced back before. Obviously, DG talked about McMillan, who I think is really underrated. I truly do love. Jesus Christ, why did he just jump out of my head? Who did you say? as your guy day 2. See, Jermaine Burton. I also like Jermaine Burton as well. There's so many good wide receivers in this class. Another guy, obviously, we mentioned Tez, but the one for me personally that I really like to bring up is Jalen Polk. He's a guy, obviously, in Washington. He was asked to play outside really as Rome moved, all throughout the formations as well, and he has the ability really to play all 3 spots, but he has a really good technical understanding of how to play the wide receiver position. He understands his really good body control, being able to put himself in positions to catch the ball at a high level, tracks the ball well down the field, has pretty good athleticism really across the board. So if you're talking about a day 2 guy that you can come in day 1 and hand good responsibilities to, then I feel good about that, truthfully. I think he can come in and do that right off the bat. He's actually really explosive of a player. Could work a little bit on the short to intermediate aspect of it, but he's a guy you can have him outside day 1, have Hollywood Brown and Rashid Rice kind of flip flop as far as the slot and the Z is concerned, and you could have a lot of fun with those 3 guys. So I really love Jalen Polk. Personally, he's a guy that I've banged the table for a while now, and he's a part just of a spectacular Washington receiving core. So honestly, I think we all agree Rome is out of the question, but we'd be very happy if either one of those guys ended up being Chiefs. I don't know. No.
Those were the 2 best receiver rooms in college, Texas and Washington. So if you get anybody from those rooms, you'll be very satisfied. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm cool with any of those.
No doubt about that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so that's the kind of view as far as the day 2 wide receivers are concerned. Obviously, Ricky Pearsall, a little bit more of a slot guy. There's mentioning Brandon Rice, a guy that I really like. He's a physical outside guy, more of a 3rd round projection guy. But look, Brandon Rice obviously has got the pedigree. But I really do like Brandon Rice too. And I will say the same things that I said for Caleb Williams and his specific evaluation. The USC office did not do him a lot of favors, in my personal opinion, the way that they used him. So I think there's a lot more to Brandon Rice's game that the college tape would show. So last part for our wide receiver preview specifically, a late round wide receiver that would be a good target for Kansas City. I think there is a room if they want to draft a late guy after they draft an early wide receiver. It would make a lot of sense from that aspect. Actually, I did kind of skip past it. Do you guys have any other thoughts on Ricky Pearsall? Because I did just mention him, but if you guys had anything specifically,
I like Ricky. He'd probably be in the group we're about to talk about now, like the tier 3 guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, a little bit more of an inside guy to me, which I don't love it. I like guys that can play outside. I truly do, because I feel like that's where your money is made. And if I'm taking a shot in the first 2 rounds, then I need a guy that's going to be able to play outside, in my personal opinion. And that's why I skew more towards the Tez Walkers, the Brandon Rices, the Jalen Polks of the world, because they can survive outside. So yeah, that's my general feeling as far as that. But Ricky Pearsall is going to make some team very happy, I think, in the 2nd round.
That'd be a good pro for sure.
Yeah. So late round wide receivers, 5th, 6th, 7th round guys that you feel like can really kind of can fill that mold very well for you. I think there is room for a guy to come in late round and compete for the back end of this wide receiver roster. So let me know, which one do you guys want to go with?
Well, I think I got a guy who's probably going to get slept on just because of where he played at. But a guy who I feel like he'll have some success. I feel like in the league. I won't sit here and say he'll be an all-pro or anything like that, but I think it's a guy you'll definitely hear about in the league. But Raylan Coker, Holy Cross, 6'1", man, 209 pounds. Man, a guy who is a phenomenal route runner. Understands how to run routes, understands how to stack DBs, stem guys at the top of his route, and then a guy who I feel like is a good jump ball receiver as well too. He had 15 touchdowns last year at Holy Cross. Guy can get down the field, catch and run, has decent speed. Wouldn't say that it's blazing or anything like that, but he can get over the top and make some plays. Only really struggles I kind of seen from his film that he really struggles with is being able to like figure out sitting down in zone, being patient with his feet in zone and things of that nature, which is kind of something that I think that if he was to come here, the Chiefs would probably have to coach him up on, kind of like how they did Rasheed Rice last year, being able to find those, and then also kind of getting with Patrick and learning that rhythm of where Patrick likes to see you at and sit in the zone and things of that nature. So I think that's the only really thing that he really has trouble with. But yeah, man, this dude is he's a he's a beast, man. Like if you want to go watch some highlights, dog, like Jalen Coker is a dog. So
And
definitely
anytime we
another
can get some
awesome.
Holy Cross highlights on, I'm going to go ahead and throw
Holy
them
Cross
on.
versus yeah.
Yeah, man, go check him out, man. His route run is phenomenal. Steve Smith loves him. He thinks he's gonna be a steal for somebody in the draft. So definitely a day 3 guy that I think a lot of people are really gonna sleep on.
Completely understand. And while you're checking out Jalen Coker, also look at their guard. Hanson, really good guy. Late round target as well for some interior offensive line depth. CJ, go ahead. What's your favorite late round guy?
I'm gonna go with a very similar measurables to what we drafted in the past. Chiefs Kingdom probably not gonna like this because they don't like short guys anymore. We have PTSD. I'm gonna go Isaiah Washington out of Illinois, a guy that can do 2 roles for us. He can return kicks and play the slot if need be. Very explosive, very good after the catch. I'll have to post some clips online after we post the episode. But one of my favorite guys I've watched in the draft since the beginning of the season. Very good route runner. A guy that has good hands, not afraid to go over the middle and take a hit. I've had some inside information from people who work at the university who told me things about him, and he's obviously a guy that come from the bottom and trying to make a name for himself. Obviously, being a smaller receiver, you don't get the respect that other big name receivers get, but the kid is tough as nails. He can go over the middle, make a catch, can run after the catch and make plays, and obviously he'll return kicks if need be. So I think having a guy that can fill 2 roles on your team will make him a better beneficial role to this offense. Obviously, because we're still trying to figure who our returner is going to be, because we all know obviously we didn't re-sign Richie James, and the kind of return roles kind of up in the air between Sky Moore and KT right now. So I think bringing in the kid and Isaiah Washington would definitely help out this offense and the special teams role for sure. I love his game, absolutely.
Okay. Completely understand. Look, my guy personally, I really like him, Anthony Gold out of Oregon State. You
I
talked a
had
little
him
bit
too.
about
That was my next guy.
yeah. You talk about the kind of dual roles that you can discuss as far as being able to be athletic enough to do some things underneath, give you a little bit of deep speed as well, which he brings to the table. But specifically, his ability really to return, I think, is important. And look, you're in a situation where you're going to have to find different guys to do those types of things. He's on the shorter side, a little bit weight, still tested very well as far as his athletic score is concerned. The kid has the ability to catch the ball on a consistent basis. Obviously struggles with contact, which again, he's a smaller wide receiver. That's going to happen at times as well. But look, good foot speed, has the ability to get in and out of cuts, understands a little bit about the wide receiver position as well. So I like him as a late option specifically, and he brings you a little bit of return value as well from that aspect. Obviously, I believe Airhead, Airhead Chiefs podcast asked about Javon Baker. He's probably a little bit more of a day 2 guy. I think that from UCF, he's going to end up going in 3rd or 2nd round, probably 3rd round. I like him as an option. He's a little bit more of an inside option than an outside option, but he can go outside occasionally. But yeah, I like the kid. He can give you something in the 3rd round as well. I wouldn't love it as your sole, early wide receiver investment, though. Personally, I don't know if his upside is what you would be looking for in that circumstance as well. You guys have any thoughts on Javon Baker?
For a visit too.
Yes, we did. Which, of course, everybody always jokes means that they're never going to take him. But hey, we had Rasheed Rice on the vision.
Yeah.
We had Rasheed Rice on a visit, so we'll see. But yeah, so go ahead.
No, I haven't really looked into Javon Baker's tape, so I have to check him out a lot.
I like Javon Baker. He's one of my picks too.
But obviously, if they brought him in for a visit, it obviously means they're reaching them value that he can do. So I know it normally means that they don't draft those guys, but they obviously see something that they like. So if he's there, yeah, I'm with it. If they take him.
I did want to get this because I almost wasn't able to show it, but this is Anthony Gold's punt return from the Shrine Bowl as well, which was a lot of fun to watch. He had a heck of a week down there, man. And that's what you can get in these bowl practices. Get to see a little bit of one-on-one talent, and see these guys compete against other people in the draft class, which is nice.
Okay, a little spin. Get up out of there.
Yeah, it gives you a little spin. Look, like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see what they end up doing as far as the draft is concerned. Not the draft, the return is concerned, because obviously the new rules. Who do they feel actually fulfills that role is going to be very interesting to see. I like this hat. I'm going to go ahead and keep it because I got that. I got this one in Vegas. Yeah, I got this one in Vegas. But yeah. Yes. Oh yeah, J.K. Dobbins. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Still possible to bring him in, but this feels like it's like a post-draft move. It ends up happening if he, is going to go out and see if he can get somebody else to give him a little bit more money. If not, he'll probably come back to Kansas City from that aspect. But yeah. Is there? I mean, I haven't had a full list of the draft visits. Was there anybody on those draft visit lists that kind of piqued your interest? There's one guy I believe we're going to end up talking about a little bit later that was interesting to me, but I didn't see anybody too crazy on the draft visits list.
They brought in what? Baker,
the lineman, Javon,
Kingsley.
Kingsley. I don't think we've used it on any DBs. Nothing I know, nothing I remember off the top.
I'm pretty sure they're gonna wrap up visits here as they get closer to the draft.
I think it's Javon, the lineman, and Kingsley. I think that's it that I remember off the top so far.
What lineman was it? What?
I think there was a guard that we brought in. Let me go see who it was.
It was the Chris Mahogany from Boston College was the interior offensive lineman as well.
That's the one we brought down. Yeah.
Brought in some tight ends: Theo Johnson, Jatavion Sanders, Eric All, and so it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, we did in fact bring in Javon Baker as well, Anthony Gold, and Troy Franklin, Xavier Worthy, and Brian Thomas Jr. So it'd be interesting to see.
With a lot of players.
Yeah, visited with a lot of players, certainly at the draft, and then also some of them coming to KC. So it'll be fascinating to see from that perspective. So, well, yes, they did vote in the stadium. It did not pass. Well, I shouldn't say they voted in the stadium. They voted on the tax that has always existed in KC, and they voted no to it. And obviously that has stadium.
I don't want to pay something I've been paying already.
All right. Yeah. Next draft prospect day. So basically for the tight ends, I mean, obviously we know the top of the draft is dominated by Brock Bowers. Assumed first round prospect, probably a top 15 pick. Jatavion Sanders kind of the second guy floating in the really end of the first, but really more so the second. And then also we have a group of really athletic guys that are kind of coming in. So first question I'm going to ask is if you guys have a pick of one of these 3 or 4 scenarios / you either trade a 2025 first and this year's first round pick to go get Brock Bowers, you take Jatavion Sanders at 32, or you take Kate Stover or Theo Johnson at 64. Which one of those scenarios would you most be appealing to you?
I would say the Brock Bowers trade is a little too rich for my blood.
1-1 is crazy, so we can eliminate that out the way.
Yeah, a little too risky.
That's hilarious, though.
I would like Brett Beach being aggressive, but I don't know if I want him that aggressive.
Boy, I don't know we want him that bad.
Jatavion's another guy that, of course, being a Texas fan, I would love to have for us on the team. But kind of seen him go in certain mocks a little bit before we pick in the second round. So if I think that they might have to move up in the second round. I'm not sure what the compensation is for that.
In this scenario, we'd be taking him at 32. So
I'll take him at 30. Ooh. I wouldn't mind it, but I don't know. I think that's kind of overvaluing him, And it would obviously mean that they really like him a lot if that's the case. Like, and I'm not. Jatavion's a great player, but I just don't know if he's a first round guy that I would take at 32 necessarily. So, I don't know if I do.
Yeah.
So Kate Stover at 64, Theo Johnson at 64.
Kate Stover it is.
It'd probably be looking more, Kate Stover at 64.
Yeah, I mean, look, that was. that was a little bit of the point of the conversation, was having it be a little bit pricey to go get one of the top two tight ends. And I still think it's a little bit unrealistic from that perspective, because you're going to have to spend a premium pick. And I don't think that, given their needs, they can really afford to do that at tight end. The other situation is. But yeah, I thought it was, have a little bit of fun with it. But JT Sanders certainly incredibly.
If you want to take JT, you know what I'm saying? I ain't opposed to it. You know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't be opposed.
You know what I'm saying? 13 personnel. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Mm-hmm. No, look, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Still would be a little bit more of a second round pick to me. And even then, it'd be tough for me to see it over wide receiver and offensive tackle.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Especially when you sign Irv Smith. Like, I love JT. I think he would be amazing in this offense. Yeah. Like, I think he could come in here and dominate from day one. But from what you have now, and I was about the gap between him and Theo Johnson or Case Stover is not that big for me. You can grab either one of those guys, or even the value. Even the kid Benson out of K-State. Either one of those four guys I just named could come in this offense and play tight end 2 to 3 very well and be an easy transition. So that's why you don't have to reach for a guy at 32, given all the needs that we have, like D-Mac says. So yeah, it's as much as I love JT, I probably like him a little bit more than Bauer, just because I love his size and what he can do. But it's it's just a reach at 32. Great player though. I wish he would come here, but we don't always get what we want. So
yeah. So we'll take obviously Brock Bowers, Jatavian Sanders, and both Theo Johnson and Cade Stover off the table here as kind of guys that are projected to go in the top 100 picks. And for the record, I'm doing this based on Dane Brugler's board, just because he's the best guy as far as draft is concerned. So I'm working off of his top 100 just to kind of organize these things. But for your favorite tight end prospect outside of that group, who did you guys peg to kind of talk about a little bit?
Well, for me, I mean, it's been a guy that I think I've been talking about a lot. I think we've probably taken him in every mock draft we've done on here.
We've done on here, yep.
Yeah, Benson Knott out of K-State.
Definitely,
I think that could step in and do a lot of versatile things for Andy Reid. I think he's an Andy Reid type of guy who he would love to have. I don't know not sure if he could officially take over the role for Travis, when that time is to come for him to retire. But I do think that he could be a vital piece for the future as far as what he can do on the field. So I definitely like Snot a lot. I definitely think he's a guy you can get probably, I would say day 3, maybe.
Yeah, I think you can get him in the 4th. Yeah.
Yeah, I like his game, man. Tough guy. Catch, block, do whatever you really need him to do. Does a lot of the dirty work. So definitely would love to have him on this team as well.
Yeah, after Theo and Brett so now it kind of gets kind of slim. There's some other guys that I like personally, but for our offense, like I love Jaheim Bell's game, but I know for our offense that wouldn't fit. Mainly, well, he could fit, but I think when you sign a guy like Irv Smith, you're kind of bringing in that H-back type of move guy who can kind of come around and play like the U position or play like the wing position at tight end when you want to go 12 or 13 personnel. So I think that role has kind of been solidified. So a guy that could step in right away, probably after Snot, probably the guy ripping. I hope I'm saying his name right. I probably butchered it. I probably said it wrong. But he probably the next tight end I think could come in if he had to be like a tight end too, maybe develop into a starter, a kid that can run. Obviously needs to develop his blocking a little bit more. But I think he's a kid probably after those 5, probably the next one on the list. At least for the guy that I value for the Chiefs offense, he probably the next guy that I think could step in right now. Because after that, it kind of gets the list is kind of short. Last year's tight end class was amazing, so this is like a fall off. But even though this class is really good as well, but yeah, ripping after Sanat and Theo probably the guy that I would look at for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I like both of those options. Both of those guys could come in and kind of day one add to this team. The other guy I'll mention specifically, Tip Ryman out of Illinois. Absolutely killed the combine.
Ryman, yeah, that's what I meant to say. I butchered his name. I'm
sorry,
sorry,
you say Raymond?
That's what I meant. I meant to say Ryman. I butchered his name. I'm sorry, but that's what I was trying to say. I knew I was going to say it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure, but I thought that's
never say it
right.
Going,
so I figured,
yeah, okay. I never say it right. I always butcher his name. I'm sorry, bro. I'm a pop.
No, you're You're good. I just wanted to make sure that we had our basic. I thought
Yeah,
that that's where you were
same
going, but I wanted to mention it again just to be
Yeah,
sure.
I butcher his
No,
name every time.
no, you're good. Look, like I said, come in day one, can play the the 2 or the 3. He's a little bit more of an inline tight end, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. Again, it's going to be very difficult for us to go and replace what Travis Kelce brings to the table. But it's interesting. It obviously Irv Smith Jr. has been signed to be a part of the tight end room. Is tight end that much of a need in this draft? You can argue that it's not. And given the fact that we obviously have opened up some other holes in other places that you can add into the depth pieces, whether it's interior offensive line, obviously running back, wide receiver still can be doubled down on. Obviously, what the tackle situation is like, always can add to the defensive line. And Veach is always going to have a day 3 secondary pick. You could argue that tight end doesn't end up being taken, but it'd be interesting if they do take one, what type of flavor it is. Whether it's a guy like, obviously, Tip Ryman, who he said is a little bit more of an inline guy, Ben Sinnott, who has a little bit more of a wide, kind of tight end versatility as well. A guy like Jaheim Bell or Eric All, who from Iowa, it's a little bit more of a split out tight end, a little bit lighter, not much in line blocking, but he can give you a little bit in the deep threat and also route running ability, capability a little bit more. So it'll be interesting to see if they take a tight end, what flavor it'll be, but those are some of the names to look out for. As far as that's concerned. So to wrap this up, we have the last one, running backs. Obviously, CH back in the fold, Pacheco's still here, J.K. Dobbins floating out there. What would be a running back target for you guys late day 3, which I think is probably where you're going to end up drafting a guy to come into this roster and give a good compliment to what Pacheco brings to the table, maybe a different dynamic that we've seen in a few years past. Who's a name that you guys are targeting from that perspective?
My guy was Marshawn Lloyd, guy at the USC. Interesting enough that his draft or player comparison is Jared McKinnon. I think so. Yeah, a guy that probably can provide. Wow. Yeah, they can provide similar things to what Jet kind of does. Obviously got some speed on him. A guy who can kind of hit the hole and break away and get through. Still have to look at a little bit more of his tape or whatever, but I've been seeing in a lot of mocks that he's a guy that kind of goes on day 3 as well too. I think he's, what is he, 5'9", 220.
He's explosive.
Yeah, definitely think explosion is something that they kind of need in that room, especially with having kind of guys like Isaiah and Clyde back. I think that he would be a good third addition to that running back rotation, and possibly maybe could be a guy that could be a third down back for the Chiefs at some point. So, definitely love what Marshawn Lynch can do. Marshawn Lloyd.
I would also like Marshawn Lynch.
Would love for him to turn into Marshawn Lynch.
He turns into Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, nah, man. But yeah, definitely a guy that I'd be definitely intrigued and interested in watching more.
That's an interesting comparison. I want to see that article. They compared him to Jet.
It's actually on the NFL. Yeah, the NFL website. They got his score as a backup potential to develop into a starter, and then player comparison is Jared McKinnon.
I never thought that when I watched him. He's very powerful, but I think he's more powerful than Jet McKinnon in my opinion. But that's an interesting comparison. Now, the guy that I would probably do on day 3, I mean, we've kind of said his name a million times, is I've said Blake Watson. I've been banging his name on the table since the beginning of the season when I saw him in September. So I think he's more of a Jet McKinnon comparison for me than obviously than Marshawn Lloyd is, even though he's a very good back. But when you get to day 3, obviously there's a lot of guys that can obviously still play and come in and start if need be. Because there's always that one rookie running back that comes out of nowhere. Like, oh, how do you get a job? When somebody gets hurt, somebody gets cut, then he turns into a starter. So I think he's a guy that if need be, I think he can come in, obviously, and run the ball for you if you need to in short yards. Obviously, his main position in this team would be third down, catching the ball in the backfield, being versatile. A guy that's played receiver, a guy that's played running back full-time in Memphis, and he's made a lot of big plays for that offense. A guy that's prides himself on being valuable on third down, being able to protect the quarterback, which is obviously your first and foremost job on third down as a running back. So he's a kid that I love a lot. I would love to see him get on day 3, among other names like Cody Schrader and other guys too. But Blake Watson's my guy that I've been out of Memphis. I've been banging the table for him. He compares to Jared McKinnon, Tony Pollard type of guy for me.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, certainly. I will say, me personally, somebody also mentioned Jalen Wright. reality situation is. I think Jalen Wright's going to end up going earlier, back into the third round.
Going earlier.
Yeah. So he's not somebody that I like him a lot, but he's not somebody that I would be necessarily targeting because I think it's going to be very difficult to get him on the team. Reality situation. My guy personally, and I've been talking about him pretty much since Bowl week. I love Kamani Vidal out of Troy. Man, he went down to Mobile, absolutely showed out. Had the movement ability, explosiveness, tested very well at the combine as well. You look at kind of some of the analytics aspect of it, and this is also, this supports some of the guys that you named, obviously, in Blake Watson and Marshawn Lloyd, kid Isaac Corriendo out of Louisville, obviously had an insane combine. He's on this list as well. But the reason I say Kamani Vidal is obviously he has an incredibly small dot, and that dot represents the percentage of his plays that were actually perfectly blocked because he did not have a good offensive line in front of him. But incredibly explosive guy, catch the ball well out of the backfield, competes as far as pass protection is concerned. So I need a guy that's going to try, and therefore, I can teach him up from that perspective as well. But he did a lot while not having a lot in front of him from a blocking perspective. That also sounds like a late running back that the Chiefs ended up picking and turning into a pretty good guy himself, in Isaiah Pacheco. So I like what he brings to the table. I don't think that he's going to be picked early because obviously he doesn't have a lot of high pedigree. I would love to bring him in to be a compliment into this running back room personally. So Kamani Vidal is a guy that I've been talking about, specifically targeting as well on day 3 of the NFL draft. So yeah, any other guys you feel like in any one of these positions you think we should highlight before we get to kind of the final question as well?
Nobody really crazy. Pretty much named them all. I'll put out some good mocks now that we know officially what our picks are going to be. Snead deal is done. It officially went through. Now we know. I'll definitely drop some more mocks as we get closer to the draft for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are going to have a little bit of a cross-show draft game. We'll tell you guys a little bit more about the details of that coming up. And in addition to our news that we continue to tease before we can officially say that hopefully it's coming down the pipe soon. Make sure you guys stay tuned to that. So last question is this simple, just within our own, tell the truth universe to have some fun with it. I asked you guys kind of just to predict if you had to say one specific prospect was going to end up going to the Chiefs. It doesn't, if you want to give a round, you can, but it doesn't necessarily have to do that. But out of the tight end, running back, and wide receiver group, which guy do you think will end up being a Chief?
That's tough. So
it is tough.
A lot of options.
Brett Veach is a very sneaky man.
He's always gonna bring a guy that
like to reveal a lot of his tricks. So,
I will say, Rasheen Ali is a guy that I haven't seen a lot of tape on. I'll certainly say that. I do know that he was preseason. I'm pretty sure he was on Dane Brugler's freak list, I believe, because he is an athletic freak, so it's worth paying attention to. But I haven't paid a lot of attention to it a lot, so I say I haven't had a chance to watch any of that Marshall film. So
I think I'll say, I think for me, I think AD Mitchell at 32 would probably be my choice as far as who I bank on them to possibly take. I would love for them to have Xavier Worthy, but I think Xavier Worthy is going to go way before they can get to him. If he does fall, I'll be thrilled for that or whatever, but I just know there's too many teams out there that probably would look at that speed and think that that's something that they just you can't coach or anything like that. So why not bring him in and draft him? So I'm gonna say AD Mitchell at 32 is who I think would probably be the pick. Book it.
I'm gonna go.
Okay, but CJ, before you go, I mean, we could talk about this for a little bit. I mean, obviously, Stefon Diggs trade happening. I mean, it feels like there's going to be a lot of wide receivers that go in that kind of 20
even more so
to 32 range. Yeah. And obviously, we mentioned Brian Thomas Jr. Whether he goes before then is going to be very interesting because that'll either push some guys up, push some guys back, regardless. We know Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, Keon Coleman, Xavier Legette, Troy Franklin, Lad McConkey. Those guys are going to be in contention. It's going to be very fascinating to see what actual prospects get taken in that range and which prospects do not end up getting taken in that range. Because you could legitimately say, I think you could, they don't need it, but you could say Philly could take a wide receiver if they love the guy there. I think you could say Dallas could take a guy. Arizona, if they don't go wide receiver, if they trade out, certainly could happen. We know what Buffalo has a big need for now. Probably wouldn't see with Detroit. Baltimore, I think, could absolutely take another wide receiver. So all of those things are kind of on the board for teams in front of us that could use wide receiver from that perspective, and that's what makes the draft fun. Go ahead, CJ.
Absolutely. No, I think we'll probably go tight end because obviously I know Noah Gray's been here for a while, and he's probably going to transition on and probably get another guy in here. So I'm going to go Theo Johnson will be a Kansas City Chief. And I'm going to go in the – what round did we draft Trav again? Is that third?
Third, yeah.
Third. So I'm going to keep the trend going, tight end in the third. Theo Johnson out of Penn State. Yep, that's what I'm going to go with. It makes sense.
Not at all. So it's kind of it's tough for me. I was tempted to say, a little bit of Xavier Worthy at 32, but it'd be difficult to kind of pull it off. They could obviously trade up for him. Maybe a small move if they really like the guy, but I still think that that's a little bit reserved for a possible tackle prospect as well. So, I'd love to go with my guy and go with Jalen Polk in the second round, but I think that maybe they wouldn't love him because he's a little bit more of an outside wide receiver. It's tough sometimes to kind of get in the mind meld of what they kind of view as important for a wide receiver is concerned. But, he was my guy. I said I really like him. He is very versatile in my opinion. So I'll say Jalen Polk in the second. Will be my prediction for who I think will end up
on my list.
Chief.
I like both Polk. Him and McMillan. I like both of them.
Absolutely got to. So we got A.D. Mitchell in the first round for DG. We got Theo Johnson for CJ in the third round. And then for me, I'll end up going with Jalen Polk in the second round, personally. So that'll go ahead and wrap it up for this show. I mean, unless you guys want to get into state politics, which is always incredibly fun to talk about.
We'll be here all night doing that.
Oh man.
Episode for that one, boy.
you ain't lying. You are not lying one bit. So what were you saying?
I was gonna say just prepare yourselves for the Overland Park Chiefs.
Hey, them Legends Chiefs about to go crazy, baby. Shout out to the Legends.
Certainly. 2 for 10, baby. 9-1-3 Chiefs.
We got them, baby. Come on, you dig what I'm saying?
9-1-3 Chiefs is so hilarious. I cannot.
Bro, they gonna be sick with that. Oh God.
Hey, it is what it is, man.
It is what it is, man.
They voted no, so it is what it is. All right, so we appreciate you guys for coming by. That was our wide receiver, tight end, running back kind of draft preview segment, and we'll do a similar thing next week, specifically talking about offensive tackles, defensive linemen, edge rushers as well. And then week after, we'll kind of get into the leftovers, quote unquote, at cornerback, interior offensive line, and second and safety as well. So we'll talk about them a little bit later on.
Hey, bro, that's gonna be nasty. No. That's gonna be disgusting.
It's gonna be terrible.
You think it was bad now, boy? Oh boy.
It's gonna look people gonna look like they buffering out there. That's how bad it's finna go. It's gonna be terrible. Oh, Lord, this is gonna be awful.
Don't be that guy. Come on, guys. Come on.
Guys, I promise you, Rashid Rice is gonna be fine.
Bro,
y'all control me if y'all want. Y'all control me if I'm wrong. Don't panic with this.
Bro, so many players up there. You're not gonna buy a jersey because he what? All right, bro. Go ahead. You got
Don't panic with this.
There's so
many other reasons you cannot buy a player's jersey. That's not one of them. But okay.
There's also there's really nothing to talk about right now. It's a pending legal case, so there's nothing but speculation at this current moment in time. I promise y'all, something really drastic has to come out, I think, for that man to be in trouble, my personal opinion. So I think he'll be all right. But we'll have that conversation when we have actual stuff to go off of and not just speculation from that perspective. But yes, but thank you guys for coming by. Like I said, this is our wide receiver, tight end, and running back kind of preview. We'll get into the other prospects later on at the other positions as well. Going to talk about CEH and Carson Wentz getting signed in Kansas City as well. But thank you guys once again for DG and CJ. I'm DMAC, man. Peace out.
Peace out.